5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are live. Come to you live. It's been live. Say what's up to the people, Dad.
Hey, welcome to our very smart and sophisticated audience that wants something more than the usual conventional wisdom. We'll try to give it to you.
Man, you really got that line. You've got that whole intro down pat.
Down pat.
Wow.
Not bad for an old guy. Hey, I want to remind everyone, the book is out. Can you grab it, Sam?
Yes.
The book is out. Conservative at the Core, A New History of American Conservatism. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Target, the website of the University of Notre Dame Press. It's out. It's time to get it, and I'll be happy to take any of your questions once you get the book. And please, if you're on Amazon, do an Amazon review. That would help us a lot. You know, I have to tell you.
What?
Sam is always calling me an old man, right?
Prove it.
Well, guess what I remember? What administration I go back to, Sam?
You go back to the Abraham Lincoln era.
Pretty much. Yeah. But, you know, let's just say certainly to the Dwight Eisenhower era. Long time ago, very different era. I've studied politics from the founding to the present.
Okay.
And I want to tell our audience.
Tell them.
I have never seen so much action.
Really?
I have never seen so much happening of enormous significance for our economy, our democracy, our liberties, our freedoms.
Yeah.
Virtually every day, not just one, but 2, 3, 4 significant things happen. You know, we'll be talking about 3 or 4 different things today, tonight. But of course, we're going to start with the continued haunting of Donald Trump and his allies, the nightmare on Elm Street, the Freddy Krueger of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal continues to haunt Donald Trump and his administration. And, you know, to be a little more highbrow, I'm reminded of the famous line from Sir Walter Scott, who said, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive." Well, thank you. I got to modify that, though.
Oh.
What a tangled web we weave when the 30,000th time we practice to deceive. That was the number of lies and misleading statements by Donald Trump just in his first term.
Right.
You know, you could probably add several thousand more. Lying is the motif of Donald Trump and his administration, and it is so amply demonstrated in their clod-footed attempt to get away from the nightmare of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. What did we hear first from Pam Bondi about the so-called files of Jeffrey Epstein?
Can I intro the topic before we get into it?
Oh, yeah, you told me that.
I told you right before the
forgot.
show. I said, make sure you
All right,
wait for me
before
to
we
intro
get
the
into
topics.
it.
Before we get into it.
All right.
Bombshell. Boom. Congress has released Jeffrey Epstein's birthday book, including a lewd note allegedly signed by Trump. Handwriting expert Emma Batchy, I'm not sure if that's how you say her name.
Bache.
Yes. Says,
I think it's Batch.
Batch. Says the signature is absolutely his, despite Trump's denials.
We're going to talk about that, and we're going to look at those signatures. But let's step back a moment, Sam.
Okay, let's step back.
Right. What did Pam Bondi first say about the so-called Epstein materials?
They're on her desk.
And she's ready to release them. What's the next thing she said? They don't exist.
Yeah.
Right? And the Wall Street, of course, now, not only do they exist, but the Republicans on the Oversight Committee released 30,000 pages of the non-existent Epstein materials. Of course, they didn't tell you anything. It was almost all stuff that was publicly known, and what wasn't publicly known was heavily redacted. And we now know that's just a small piece of these so-called non-existent Jeffrey Epstein files. So this whole thing begins, as it so often does, with another big lie. And then the Wall Street Journal, Sam, published this article claiming that Donald Trump had sent this lewd, suggestive birthday card on Epstein's 50th birthday in 2003, which was not only disgraceful in terms of what it portrayed, but seemed to indicate Trump knew exactly what was going on with Jeffrey Epstein. And, of course, we get the next big lie, right, Sam?
Right.
This doesn't exist. It's a Democratic hoax, just like Joe Biden winning the election is a Democratic hoax, or climate change is a Democratic hoax. Guess what? It turns out not to be a Democratic hoax, right, Sam? Guess what turned up, as you pointed out?
The letter.
The letter.
The letter.
The letter. It was materials collected again by the Republican-dominated House Oversight Committee, although released by Democrats. So there it is. You can't claim it doesn't exist. So you got to shift off that lie.
Right.
And argue two different things.
Okay.
One, it's still a Democratic hoax because somehow back in 2003, right, Sam?
Right.
22 years ago, a dozen years before Donald Trump became a political candidate, somehow 12 years before he went down that escalator in 2015 and announced his candidacy, some foresightful Democrat figured, oh my God, we have to smear Donald Trump. And they inserted this hoked up forgery into the birthday book. Now, if you believe that, Sam, I got a big bridge to sell you in my hometown of Brooklyn. Come on.
But he was, the whole Democrat hoax is, I mean, there's a lot
it's
to
nonsense.
It,
and they would have had to hire a forger. You know, the whole thing is absurd on its face.
Of course, I don't buy it. But he was very famous in 2003.
So what? There was no reason for the Democrats or anyone to do that to him. Come on.
No, I'm not saying there was. I'm just saying he wasn't nobody in 2003.
I didn't say he was nobody, but he had no political influence or interest at that time.
I don't know how true that is. I don't think that's true. That
it's absolutely true. Even in 2014, right before the 2016.
No, I meant I don't think the stuff that Trump is saying is true at all.
All right, we'll get to that. Let's get to that. But I think even before you get to the details, the idea that some Democrat 22 years ago hired
absurd.
a forger,
it's absurd.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
So the whole argument that it's a Democratic hoax is absurd on its face. But let's look at the two substantive arguments that they made. Number one, it's not Donald Trump's signature. And to try to prove that, they looked at signatures from the present, 20 years or more after he signed that. Well, we know people's signature changes, evolves over time, particularly as you get older. I know mine does, as I'm almost the same age as Donald Trump. So what signatures would be most relevant, Sam?
Signatures from the time?
From the time or close to the time. So their argument that it doesn't resemble Donald Trump's signature from 2024 or 2025 is irrelevant. What is relevant is looking at his earlier signatures. And I think before we get to that, let's look at the card itself.
Okay, let's do it. 1 second.
The so-called card that didn't exist.
Here's the so-called card that didn't exist, but now exists.
So it's the silhouette of a woman, right?
Yes.
With breasts kind of sketched in and a lot of verbiage in the middle and this signature down where you would expect the private parts of a woman to be. Now, remember, this isn't way out of character for Donald Trump, is it?
No.
No. Donald Trump bragged in the Access Hollywood tape that as a star, he can grab women by their pussies. And there he is, signing it right there by a woman's private parts. You know, if this was someone else, maybe one can argue, oh, this is so out of character that it makes no sense. This is right in character for Donald Trump, the guy who bragged about grabbing women by their private parts.
So what are they saying happened? Somebody got the book and inserted a forged letter from Trump? Is that their main point? Or they're not even getting that
I don't
specific?
even think they've gotten that far. Their main... Let's first see what this thing says. We've now kind of described what it looks like and made the point this is not out of character.
Right.
This is right in character for Donald Trump.
So it's typed out and it's actually in screenplay format, which is all a little strange, but that's what it is.
It's in what format, Sam?
Screenplay format.
What is that?
A screenplay for like a movie.
Oh, like a movie. Yeah. Got it.
It starts with voiceover. There must be more to life than having everything. Donald. This is like dialogue, Donald.
Yes, Jeffrey. Donald's dialogue.
Yeah, Donald. Yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey. Nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald. We have certain things in common, Jeffrey.
Stop there. Certain things in common. In other words, associating himself, presuming he wrote this, and we'll get to that, explicitly with Jeffrey Epstein, right?
Right. We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, yes, we do, come to think of it.
So Jeffrey acknowledges that they have certain things in common.
Donald, enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey, as a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Donald, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. And may every day be another wonderful secret. Donald J. Trump.
So they understand each other. They know what's going on. And they're sharing a wonderful secret. Well, what is Jeffrey...
I have to say something. If this is real, this is totally pedo-coded. Like, it's so...
Totally what?
Pedo-coded.
What is that?
Like pedophile-coded.
Oh, yeah. Oh, please expand.
It's so... Like, there's so many weird, creepy sexual references, especially to age and secrets, and it's so weird and creepy.
Right. You know, it's not explicit, but
no, but
short of that, yeah. You're right. It's obvious what's going on.
Like I said, if this is totally real, it's creepy to say the least.
Yeah, and I don't think the media has stressed enough how creepy this is and how consistent this is with pedophilia, which is, what other secret are they sharing?
I don't know. That's the $1 million question, I guess.
Yeah, but as you say, it's pretty obvious what they're talking about. And the year before, in 2002, Donald Trump is on tape. It's recorded. So again, maybe it's he didn't even go so far as to say that was a Democratic hoax. You know, saying Jeffrey Epstein is a great guy, and like me, he likes beautiful women, and we know he likes them young. Duh. Again, this is not out of character.
Now, to clarify the whole Democratic hoax thing, you keep going back to that, and he has said that, but has he said that specifically in reference to this letter? I think he's been talking about that generally.
Hard, you know, Donald Trump is not precise, but I think he's including this as part of the Democratic hoax.
And we should add that in this birthday book, there was also a handwritten note from Bill Clinton.
Yes, and Allan Dershowitz and other prominent.
Right. Much less, I mean, there was nothing
like this.
Nothing to the Bill Clinton. It was just like, hey, thanks for giving back to the world. I don't know, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, some platitude.
But he was in it.
Yeah. Hey, I think Bill Clinton's a creep too, but he's not president. He's not the most powerful person in the world. He has been president for 25 years.
True.
You know, I really don't care about Bill Clinton, to be honest with you, and no reason to. But again,
I think that's too far. You have to care that a former president.
Yes, of course, but there's nothing as damning as this. And we don't want to get us distracted into whatabouts. That's, you know,
not whatabouts. It's not whatabouts. It's important. If he's a predator, it's important for him to come out.
We need to focus on the most powerful person in the world.
I agree.
Who really is shaping our destiny, not someone from 25 years ago.
I agree.
I always thought Bill Clinton was a womanizer and a creep.
Yeah, I agree that we should focus on Trump, but we shouldn't ignore the fact that Bill Clinton is also very sketchy in all this as well.
Yes, but not nearly as sketchy as this. As you said, it was just a platitude that he submitted to Jeffrey Epstein. But look, Trump would love to focus on Bill Clinton. That would fall right into his trap.
Right.
They are the masters of whataboutism.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, I was on News Nation last week, and, you know, a right-wing host, and his whole thing about whether Donald Trump was a threat to our democracy was all whataboutism. You know, he looked at 12 years of Biden and Obama and cherry-picked whatever he could find, you know, to try to show, oh, they're just as bad as Trump. Of course, in 12 years, he didn't come close to finding anything remotely like what Trump has done in 7 months. But his whole attack was whataboutism. Yeah. So I really am very sensitive to focus on what we need to focus on.
I agree. We should focus on Trump.
Yes.
I just added that because I think that's a key detail.
No, I'm glad you added it, and it's relevant. As I said, lots of prominent people. Some prominent Brit was on there, and Allan Dershowitz, who said, I don't remember, I don't recall, right? Okay. So we know how creepy this is, how consistent it is with the context of Donald Trump. And as you point out, and very presciently, this is right in the wheelhouse of the way pedophilias communicate with each other.
Ew,
right
disgusting.
Smack there. So, two defenses. You know, they can't say it doesn't exist anymore because there it is.
Right.
So now they say it's a forgery.
Right.
For two reasons. One, that's not Donald Trump's signature. Okay. And as I said, their argument is ridiculous. They're looking at signatures from 20 years later. People's signatures change, particularly as they get older. I'm almost as old as Trump, and my signature has certainly changed when I've gotten into my 70s.
Right.
So what's relevant is looking at more contemporary signatures, and we've done that. I mean, we didn't do it, but we've discovered the photos in the media. Can you bring it up?
The signature stuff?
The signature. I couldn't even tell you, you know, which is from his 2003 book and which is something else.
Well, it says it right here. So this...
that's not my point.
Why are you so combative tonight?
Yeah, I'm very combative because I'm really, really focused on this.
I was just going to read the...
No, but you missed my point. Okay. If you didn't look at that...
Yes.
Left panel. No way to tell which of these is from the birthday book and which of these is from something else. That's my point.
Correct.
If it was a forgery, you'd be able to say, oh, that one's different, right?
Right.
But, you know, use your common sense.
No, I think the top three look the same.
Right. The last one is the 2020. The last two that don't look the same are 2022 and 2025, the ones they've tried from 20 or more years later to argue.
Wait, we have evidence to add to this.
We do.
You have a signed letter from Donald Trump.
From 2016.
Go get it.
All right.
Wow. We're breaking news here tonight. I didn't even think about that.
No. Now it's kind of in between. But closer to the contemporary.
I'm trying to read the chat. Someone says, profess hangry. Sam, let your dad talk. Oh my God, I always let him talk, guys. That's not an issue.
Oh my God, you're not going to believe this, Sam.
What?
It looks just like the 2003.
2000.
Whole name.
2005. 2025.
No.
Oh.
2003.
Oh, okay.
It looks like.
Hold on, hold it up. Lower it a little bit. Okay, there you go.
It looks like if you just look at the Donald, right?
Hold it up a little bit.
What do you?
Hold it.
I can't focus with the dog.
Keeks, come here. Hold it up a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
We good?
Yeah.
Just look at the Donald part of it. This is a verified signature. It was sent to me after I predicted his win in 2016. Yeah. And if you just look at the Donald, even though it's 13 years later, it is very, very similar.
It doesn't have that. It doesn't have that long tail.
Right, because it's not just Donald. It can't have that long tail.
Yeah.
Because it's both. He signed his full name. That's why I've asked you just to look at the Donald.
Right.
Here. And you can see
Let
how
me see
close.
It real quick. I can't really see it from. Sorry, 1 second.
You got that big V at the top. You got the long L. You got the kind of squiggles in the middle. You wouldn't be able to tell if I just took out the Trump and just left the Donald. You would not be able to tell which is 2003 and which is this one. They are so similar, and much more similar to the 2003 than to the 2022 and 2025. Again, Donald Trump tells you, don't believe what you see with your own eyes, right? Don't believe what you hear with your own eyes. Only believe what I tell you. Well, here you can see with your own eyes that this is absolutely consistent with the way Donald Trump has signed his name, at least through 2016, and maybe not, as he's gotten older in 2022 and 2025, which is absolutely irrelevant. You be the judge. Come on. Believe your eyes. Don't believe what Donald Trump tells you.
Should we do a poll?
Yes. Good idea. That was really smart to bring up that.
About that, yeah.
And we didn't know what it looked like. We didn't know if it contradicted or not, but it absolutely supports the idea that that's a real signature.
So what's the poll question? Is
it Donald Trump's signature?
Is the Epstein note really Trump's signature?
Yes, or we can wait because I want to get to the next claim, and then we can take a poll. Is this genuinely from Donald Trump?
That's
a broader question.
Okay.
The next argument they make, which is easily debunked, he doesn't draw things, right? Mm-hmm. He would never draw anything and send it to someone.
Right.
Well, that is even more easily debunked. You don't have to strain your eyes examining signatures, do you? He frequently has drawn things right out in the public domain. This is all Donald Trump stuff.
All of this.
All of this.
He's a pretty poor doodler.
Yeah, and that silhouette of a woman is no better. I think you've got it all.
Here's more signatures of his with the long tail.
Yep, and exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More signatures of his.
Wow. But as I said, the idea that I don't draw, that's 100% contradicted.
These are all drawings.
These are all drawings from Donald Trump. He doesn't care whether, what he says is absolutely refutable, absolutely contradicted by things we have and things we know.
It's a shame that he didn't handwrite that letter, because his handwriting, as you can see here, and actually as you can see on my dad's thing, it's very very unique, actually.
Yes, it is.
Let me see if I can. Yeah, it's his handwriting itself is extremely unique.
Yeah. Yes, very good. And just look at that signature. There's the tail. There's the, kind of mountaintop, and there's the long L and D.
Yeah, I mean, this idea that it's not his signature, the only thing you can argue is that it's a really good forgery, because it looks exactly like, it looks identical to all these other ones.
But they're attempted proof that it isn't his signature. They say, well, compare it to real signatures. And the great fallacy of their proof is it's too late. They're talking about, close to 22 years later. The more contemporary signatures show indeed it's his signature.
Right. Yeah.
And it has been looked at by a graphologist, right, Sam?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have that? Here it is. Graphologist, as you said, I think you introduced this, but I want to reiterate it. Emma Bosch told Sky News, a very respectable, in fact, pretty center-right news organization, not, MSNBC. She said she compared the signatures with others the president wrote at the time, as you can see with your own eyes. And she said, quote, "It is very much the signature that he had in the 2000s. I can absolutely say it is Donald Trump's."
Right. That's why I'm confused. I'm confused why they're not arguing that it's just a good forgery. I guess that's giving too much. Even if they say that it is his, they're trying to play as much defense and deflection as humanly possible. But to say that it's
not his signature,
it's a good forgery.
I don't think they even said that.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That's at least a little bit more. To say it's just not his signature, I mean, again, it's very easy to check this.
Yeah. And to argue it's a forgery is so far-fetched, as we say. Yeah. 22 years ago, someone would have gone to the trouble of all the expense and difficulty of hiring a forgery to send it to a private book that didn't get revealed until 22 years later. If you wanted to embarrass Donald Trump, this is the last thing you'd want to do. You'd want to make it public.
Maybe the forgery happened now. Maybe someone got a hold of the book and then added.
They haven't argued that. They haven't.
I know. I'm just saying.
I mean, look, you can come up with far-fetched.
Why are you getting mad at me?
Because you keep coming up with these far-fetched.
I'm just thinking through things. I'm not saying they're real. I'm just thinking through things.
But they're so far-fetched.
I agree. Just thinking out loud.
Maybe the Martians came down and,
Oh, stop.
That's how far-fetched what you're arguing is.
I'm just thinking out loud and thinking just from their perspective. They could be doing better, in my opinion, playing defense if they really wanted to play defense like they are. They're not even doing a good job of playing defense.
Because they're so used to lying and so used to believing that they get away with their lies. I don't think they could credibly argue someone came and snuck this into the book, that Ghislaine Maxwell had prepared 22 years ago. That just is so far-fetched.
I agree. But I also okay, never mind. You're not taking this well. I'm not
taking it well because you're really deflecting and distracting.
I'm not. I
think you are.
This is a massive story. I think it's good to think about it in all directions. And I agree, when you go in those directions,
they're absurd.
They're ridiculous. Yeah. But why not think about what they might come out with next and be ready to deflect it, or et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think they've come out with the best they can come up with at this point. But then again, you're right. I put nothing past them. If these lies don't work, they may come up with new lies. But I
think one of the big problems with messaging on the left is that they're always just reacting to what Donald Trump is saying in the moment and not thinking ahead and not thinking like, well, what if they say this is forged from 2022, or what if they
couldn't disagree with you more. Let them bring that up. Don't give them that out. Don't bring it up independently of them. If they want to argue that, let them argue that. Democrats finally have showed a spine, releasing this material in defiance of the Republican leadership. Don't give them even suggest other arguments that they can make. Yeah, you might want to think about it and get ready, but there's no reason to give them other ways of dealing with this.
I mean, I think that they can figure out plenty of ways.
Probably so, but let them do it. Don't bring it up yourself.
Okay.
That's my point. That plays into their hands. It's more whataboutism. All right. So, not only can you believe your own eyes, and that was brilliant, Sam. I hadn't even thought of that, to bring out the 2016 letter I got from Trump. Absolutely verified signature, which looks just like, right?
Well, without the tail, but yeah.
Well, you can't have the tail because it's...
yes, if you look at just the Donald without the tail, it looks the same.
Exactly, but these others, which are also just the Donald, also have the tail. another person, and I know she's very biased, so I wanted to bring up the independent professional first, Mary Trump, his niece, who knows the signatures. She's known him forever, said that's absolutely his signature. Now they're going to say, and with some justice, she hates Trump, she's a critic, she's biased, but it is another nail in the coffin of this absurd idea that this is not his signature.
That's it?
One more point before we get to our poll. Knowing that their back is to the wall. What's her name? Caroline Levitt? Did I get that right?
Caroline Levitt.
Caroline Levitt said, we'd be willing to submit this to a professional graphologist to look at. Of course, professional graphologists, and Ms. Betch is not the only one. I've already looked at it and verified it. I think that's just another ploy. I don't think they are going to allow a true independent expert to look at this. Do you, Sam?
I don't know. I can't. That's why I try to think ahead about what they're going to do, because I try to figure it out. I don't know.
This is what they say.
Yeah, I don't
something
know.
that you've come up with to give them an excuse.
I'm not giving them an excuse. I'm trying to smother it from all positions, because if you just attack the signature is real, the signature is not, then they just pivot to something else, and then by that time, again, a lie spreads fast.
No,
Democrats are playing catch up.
There,
so why not smother the entire possibility that they can argue? Think about it, smother it all. So then just keep pivoting, and a lie travels faster than the truth. So
you make a good point there.
Else, and the lie spreads across the country.
And that's why I started this by saying, forget the signature, forget the argument about, he never draws. Just look at what happened. This came out of a book that's been in the possession of officials for, close to 20 years. No way anyone could get at that to insert something like this. So on its face, before you get to anything else, it staggers the imagination that somehow Democrats or anyone else could have engaged a professional forger, professional graphologist, someone who knows exactly how Donald Trump talks, to somehow insert this into the birthday book.
I agree that they're going to say now, bring on an independent, and then once it comes, they'll come up with some new excuse of why they... the independent guy is a Clinton supporter, so we can't.
Right, or
at the last minute they'll say,
right, he's a Democrat, a Trump hater, or they'll get one of their sycophants to be supposedly an independent.
Right.
I think that may be a more likely outcome, or they'll come up with some reason why they weren't able to find someone. I think they were just throwing that out, and they have zero intention of actually coming up with an independent graphologist to look at that. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's the exact phrasing of the poll? Is this letter real?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Is this letter really
from Donald Trump?
Donald Trump, yes or no?
Perfect.
Okay.
You're like a genius.
Is this letter really from Donald Trump? Yes or no?
Perfect. All right, the nightmare continues, and they can't dismiss Freddy Krueger. The moving finger has writ, and having writ, it moves on. And not all your tears, or I would just say in this case, and not all your lies can erase a single word.
Yeah, Trump said today or yesterday recently that this is a dead topic. Sorry, bro, it ain't. It ain't going anywhere. It doesn't seem like it's losing any steam.
No, if anything, it's gaining.
Yeah,
it's gaining steam, and there's more to come.
Yeah, for sure.
This is not the last revelation.
That's it.
Hey, we got other things to talk about. As we said, we see more events day by day, or even cumulatively over 7 months, than in entire administrations.
True. 3 major pieces of news from the Supreme Court, Dad.
Wow.
Number 1, the Supreme Court has agreed to fast-track a major case testing Trump's power to impose sweeping tariffs, setting up a fight over the limits of presidential trade authority.
Let me start with that because I won't remember them all.
Gotcha. Number 1,
yes. Go. Very important. It wasn't just a district court in this case. It was a appeals court, a full panel of the Federal Circuit, which deals with these issues, special court, 7-4, wasn't close, ruled that the statute that Trump relied upon for bypassing Congress and unilaterally engaging in this major tariff war did not authorize Trump to do this. In fact, the 7-judge majority noted tariffs aren't even mentioned in that law, much less giving Trump authority to unilaterally change our policy regarding tariffs. That this is something that Congress does. Remember Mr. Smoot and Mr. Hawley, Sam?
Yes.
From 1930? They were members of Congress. The notorious Smoot-Hawley tariff was not unilaterally imposed by President Herbert Hoover in 1930. It was imposed by an act of Congress. That is typically the way you establish tariffs. Now, what do you think, Sam? Is the Supreme Court once again just going to rubber stamp, or are they going to draw a line here?
I think they're going to rubber stamp them.
I think you're right. They have on everything else.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we had the truly urgent case of presidential immunity with indictments and trials hanging in the balance and the public needing to know whether he was guilty of these charges or not, the Supreme Court huffed and puffed and deflected and delayed for months. But now within days, they're willing to respond to every request that Trump brings up.
Yeah, it's really, you know, it feels like as an average American to navigate the legal system is so hard and complex and takes so much time and energy and money. But if you're Donald Trump, goes straight to the Supreme Court, no questions asked. It's just another example of just...
And it's not even a full briefing, full oral arguments. It's a so-called rocket docket where they just make instant decisions without even having to issue opinions.
I mean, this is a pretty important thing to figure out. I mean, I will give it that. You know, it's pretty... I mean, these tariffs will basically affect every human's life on pretty much on Earth.
True. I agree with that.
So it is... in one sense, I am glad they're taking it up quickly because it's like, well, we need to solve this, and we need an answer because the instability is almost as bad as the tariffs themselves.
Couldn't agree with you more. If this was the only example, I would say, okay, not. But this is like one after the other after the other.
Yeah. All right, number 2. The Supreme Court cleared the way for Trump to withhold $5 billion in foreign aid, delivering a big win for the White House on executive spending and power.
Yes, remember Trump has said, as president, I can do anything I want because I'm saving the country. Right. One of the things he thinks he can do that was a big thorn in the side of Richard Nixon, the last president to try to do that, is impound substantial amounts of appropriations that went through the regular process and were enacted by Congress. We supposedly have a separation of powers, right, Sam?
Right.
In this country. And the power of the purse is supposed to reside in the Congress, not in the presidency. I thought that was decided, when the notorious Richard Nixon tried to demand authority to impound. It seems to me this is not a subtle issue. The president, under the separation of powers, should not have the authority to overrule Congress and decide whether money appropriated by Congress should be impounded or should be spent. And this is really important because millions of people abroad depend upon this aid to deal with the epidemic of AIDS, to protect people from other diseases, to deal with poverty, hunger, life-threatening situations. So this involves the lives of real people, particularly in the most stressful areas of the world. It's not just an academic constitutional issue.
Number 3, the Supreme Court upheld Trump's new, quote, roving patrols for immigration stops in Los Angeles, allowing federal agents to question drivers without traditional checkpoints.
Right. Here they overruled a very strong ruling of the district court, which said you can't just have roving patrols detaining people based upon their race, their accent, whether they speak English well, where they work or where they congregate. That's racial profiling, and, that is contrary to the rights of any resident in the United States. Supreme Court just overruled that. Now you can, on the street, detain person just because they don't look right or aren't in the right area.
That's messed up.
So if you're brown skin, you really got to worry. If you don't speak English perfectly or you have an accent, you really have to worry, even if you're a U.S. citizen, because racial profiling has now been green-lighted by the Supreme Court. Sonia Sotomayor wrote a stinging dissent. This takes us back to the worst days of slavery and Jim Crow. During slavery, there were free black people, but they weren't really free. If your skin was black, you could be stopped and detained by the slave patrols just because you looked black, even if you were a free black person. And we saw that after the end of slavery and the imposition of Jim Crow, which sought to reinstitute slavery as closely as possible. We saw that same kind of notorious racial profiling. It is a sad day in this country when the highest court in the land has sanctified racial profiling. And, there's no indication, of course. They have to demonstrate that these people who you're profiling have committed any crimes, are dangerous, are threatening. They could be folks who have been here for 20 years, have a steady job, have kids who are U.S. citizens, are paying taxes, are contributing to the economy. But if you look like an Hispanic, if you have an accent, if you're hanging out in a certain place, you're fair game.
Not good. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of white Americans don't really care. They think,
It's not me.
It's not me, yeah. I'll be fine.
Remember what Pastor Nemo was saying,
no one can hear you. Your mic is on the table.
Remember what Pastor Nemo in Nazi Germany said. Yeah. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but basically said, first they took this group, I didn't care, I wasn't one of them. Then another, I didn't care, I wasn't one of them. Then a third, I didn't care, I wasn't one of them. Then they came for me.
Right.
Once you destroy people's rights, no one is safe.
Agreed. Dad, Trump sparked outrage by downplaying domestic violence during a religious freedom speech, dismissing it as exaggerated by feminists. I'm laughing because it's just so ridiculous, but it's horrible, but it's just like, what?
Yeah, this is unbelievable, but not surprising. Remember, he was found by a civil jury to have engaged in, not domestic abuse, but abuse of a woman, right? E. Jean Carroll. And guess what the appeals court just said about that?
Tell me.
It said, we uphold the verdict, and we uphold the $83 million judgment. This is the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, so it's a very high court. It said, quote, we conclude that Trump has failed to identify any grounds that would warrant reconsidering our prior holdings on presidential immunity. That is, it was not covered in this case. He was acting as a private citizen. They went on to say, get this, the record in the case supports the district court's determination that the degree of reprehensibility of Mr. Trump's conduct was remarkably high, perhaps unprecedented. Remarkably high reprehensible conduct, perhaps unprecedented. Given the unique and egregious facts of this case, we conclude that the punitive damage award did not exceed the bounds of reasonableness. Trump's conduct involved, quote, malice and deceit, caused severe emotional injury, and continued at least over a 5-year period. Pretty damning findings. So no wonder this guy doesn't think abuse of a woman is a serious issue. He's also been accused of sexual harassment and abuse by God knows how many. I've lost count, but over 20. All right, so what he said was, quote, crimes down. They said crimes down 87%. I don't know who the they are. I said, no, it's more than 87%. Virtually nothing. And here's what counts. I mean, that's absurd on itself, but I want to focus on what he says next.
Okay.
And much lesser things that take place in the home, they call crime. You know, they'll do anything they can to find something. If a man has a little fight with the wife, they say this was a crime. See, so now because of this, I can't claim 100%, but we are. So domestic abuse doesn't matter. Guy can have whatever, a little fight. There's no such thing as a little fight. No such thing as physical or emotional abuse of someone's spouse. Yes, that is a crime, and there's an epidemic of domestic abuse. You know, 1 of 4 women report, and it's probably an understatement, that at some point they have been the victims of sexual abuse or violence of some kind.
The American right seems...
No, it's 4 of 10 women. Excuse me, I got the number wrong.
The American right, you know, they're so concerned about these Epstein victims, quote unquote. They're so concerned about these Epstein victims, but they don't care about domestic violence. They don't care about men, just generally the Me Too culture of men harassing women. They don't care about Eugene Carroll. I mean, the list can go on forever.
And it's interesting, he made this statement in front of a religious forum.
Yeah.
Well, what religious group has a record of the worst abuse of women? The largest evangelical denomination in America, the Southern Baptist Conference. That is in my book, and they have a horrific record of abuse of women over decades. And guess what the leaders did with that abuse?
Covered it up.
Covered it up. And even after an independent agency documented it all, they basically dismissed it. The last conference focused on things like transgender and LGBTQ and didn't take any cognizance or adopt any serious mechanisms to deal with this horrific sexual abuse within their own ranks. But of course, women cannot be pastors in a church affiliated with the Southern Baptist Convention. And according to their doctrine, a woman must follow the leadership of her husband. Whenever you establish these kinds of incredible asymmetries of power, what necessarily follows, Sam?
Abuse.
Abuse of those who hold no power.
All right, we better get to some questions. We only have 10 minutes left of the show.
Wow, is that right?
Yeah, we got a
Time flies when you're having fun.
Quick housekeeping. We got 1,000 people watching, but only 458 likes. Make sure you like the stream. It helps us a lot. Remember, donations and memberships get priority on questions. And subscribe if you're not subscribed. Turn on that notification bell so you know we're live.
And get the book. All right, I'm ready.
50 Australian dollars from Harry Chittenden. They say, at what point do you think the Epstein scandal will turn the scandal key against the GOP? Could this happen before the next election? P.S. There is a possibly larger story brewing in which Epstein trafficked a young girl to Trump.
If, in fact, that's true, and we don't know whether that's true or not, although there is some eyewitness testimony, not under oath, to that effect. I take no position on whether that's true or not because it's not proven. If it is true and is proven, that would certainly turn the scandal key, don't you think, Sam?
Yes. Thank you.
What is $50 Australian in U.S.?
$32.
Nice. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, Christofi Lirola, for your donation. I think we already answered that question. This is from Everett. They say, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on the Epstein victims and how much effect they can have on defeating Trump. Also, do you think our failing economy will cause more people to realize how terrible Trump is? We didn't even talk about the job numbers today.
No, they're horrific. I mean, the economy is in a tailspin, and his ratings on the economy have tumbled. You know, he's way underwater on voters' evaluation of the economy. Interestingly, too, he's completely lost young people. He's gone from very slight or even approval among young people to robust double digits, negative, underwater. Yes, the economy is always of critical importance, and that certainly will cause a lot of trouble for Trump. And, you know, again, I see what someone's asking about Clinton. You know, if Clinton is guilty of something, absolutely. No one should be spared. And, of course, least of all, the most powerful person in the world. Clinton should not be protected if he's done anything wrong.
What about the Epstein victims? How much effect do you think they'll have on taking down Trump, possibly?
It depends what they reveal. You know, They claim they're going to reveal powerful people who were involved in the sex trafficking and the pedophilia, but we'll see. How's our poll doing?
Oh, right, our poll. Our poll is 96% say the letter is really from Donald Trump, 4% say no. Yeah, I mean...
You know what Sherlock Holmes said? When you eliminate the impossible, and we've eliminated a lot of impossibles, what is left is the truth.
For Meta, what says Republicans vote down bipartisan Epstein Files Transparency Act and Rules Committee. Will the files still be released?
Well, we knew that was going to happen. The only way the files get released is through this discharge petition. And at the moment, I think they're one short, but I think it's September 23rd, another special election that a Democrat is virtually sure to win. And that will give them enough votes, but Republicans will use every procedural trick to block this.
$10 donation from Philip H. They say, enigmas never age. An anagram of enigma is gamines?
Gamines, yes.
Gamines.
Young girls with boyish features, yes.
Trump was known to cryptically message friends. Thoughts? Weird. That's
really weird.
Weird.
And pretty smart and pretty brilliant. I don't know of any other mention of Trump using the term gamines, but maybe you've seen it. I haven't. But that's a very interesting thought. I hadn't thought of that. Had you, Sam?
I've never even heard.
That's why we have such a brilliant. And Philip H. is one of our old buddies.
I've never heard of a Gamines.
I have. Gammons, not Gamines.
Obviously, I haven't heard of them. A few things we missed, apparently. Epstein holding check with Trump's signature for $25,000 to buy a woman. Israel bombing Qatar. Hundreds of drones currently in Polish airspace. Dems win House seat. So many issues. Yeah, I mean, we went over. We didn't even touch on. Yeah, a lot of stuff.
As I said, there's more in 7 months of Trump than in any 8-year. Can you back up on that? Any 8-year presidency. Yes, Trump. We have no idea whether that one is fake or real, but there is now a photo of Trump, of Epstein holding up a check, $22,500, I think, to buy a woman. Who knows whether that's real? We have the horror of Israel, and I've talked a lot about what Israel is doing, bombing Qatar, and the drone warfare is terrifying. It is the face of future war.
Are people assuming that these drones over Poland are Russian drones, or what?
I don't know. I hadn't heard that.
We still have over 1,000 people watching, but only 500 likes. Please
what?
Like the stream. It really helps a lot. $25 donation from Mr. Dobbs. They say, musing about messaging. The TNT message, truth not tyranny, can be made into a TNT meme with variations on truth not tyranny, like trade not tariffs, thought not turmoil, trust not treachery, tolerance not threats.
I love it. We'll steal that. That's brilliant. Thank you, Dr. Dobbs.
Why don't you talk about the cover-up murder of Irina? Iryna? Who's that?
I'm not sure what they're referring to there.
Do you want me to look it up or
Yeah.
just skip it? Irina?
Real fast, because we're already at 10 o'clock.
Irina. Oh, she's the Ukrainian refugee who just
got killed.
Got killed.
Yeah, I don't know enough about that to comment. I don't know what the cover-up is yet.
I have no idea what the cover-up is.
It's just starting. Yeah, I am familiar with that. I just didn't recognize the name.
We pretty much answered
that.
Next one. Trump just signed an order Trump just signed an order targeting direct-to-consumer pharmaceutical drug ads. Honestly, I know the devil's in the detail, but this could be a very rare good thing that he's done. How do you feel about this policy in general? I
have not seen the executive order, so as you say, the devil is in the details. Until you look at the details, there's no way to respond to that.
If it takes all those drug commercials off of TV, I'm in.
Me too. We always mute them every time they come on.
They're pretty, especially when
if that's what he's after, I don't know. Who knows?
Especially when they start getting into the side effects. You're like, oh my God, I don't want to hear this. With Congress and the Supreme Court giving up their authority, it seems all reason for hope and optimism is gone. Is there anything else we as citizens can legally do? I feel like we answer this every
single time. We're kind of out of time now. Let's go on.
Okay.
But the most important thing is to rally people to vote and vote yourself. Until you replace the government, things are going to only get worse.
This is from OB Family. Hi, guys. Watching RFK Jr.'s Senate hearing. It was disturbing. He was red-faced, breathless, sweaty, etc., etc. Until now, I had Pete Kegbreath from Department of Warlords down as the most dangerous weirdo in the Trump administration, but surely we have a top contender in RFK Jr.
Well, you've heard me many, many times commenting on the extreme danger that RFK Jr. poses to our health, making it much more difficult legally for people to get life-saving vaccines, as well as casting doubt on vaccines, which is going to reduce those who are vaccinated. And remember, people who don't get vaccinated, particularly against highly contagious diseases, not only put themselves at jeopardy, but put everyone that they're in contact with in jeopardy. Even vaccinated people, because vaccines are not 100% effective. But let me say, and I've said this before, the 40-year jump in life expectancy from the 19th century to today, one of the primary reasons for that, along with antibiotics and modern sanitation and food and drug inspection, is vaccines. They have saved tens of millions of lives. And RFK Jr. has just fabricated junk science, quack science, to try to cast aspersions on vaccines. It is horrific, and it will have an immediate effect, along with his cuts, his appointments of unqualified individuals. There are so many things. So beyond his ridiculous appearance, the substance of what he's doing poses an enormous threat to our health and well-being. You could comb through the people of the United States. You'd be hard-pressed to come up with a worse appointee to head the health in this country.
George Politis, I believe, just donated $80 Australian. Thank you so much.
So that's about $50?
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Glad to know we have an audience down under.
Okay.
I guess we're pretty much at the last question.
Much the last question. Do you want a question about redistricting, 2028, John Oliver, President Carter?
Definitely not John Oliver or President Carter.
Okay. Susan Collins.
Yeah, I'll talk about Susan Collins.
Or Israel.
No, I've said so much about Israel. People know where I stand.
Susan Collins?
Yeah. Democrats need to pick up 4 Senate seats. At one time, that was considered impossible. Well, 2 Republicans, Sam, have decided not to seek re-election. Tillis in North Carolina and, Jody Ernst in Iowa. So those are now 2 open seats. And a big question is whether Susan Collins is vulnerable. She's very unpopular. She got booed at an appearance. But every year they say, oh, this is the year we're going to beat Susan Collins, and somehow she manages to survive. That is an essential seat for the Democrats to win. They would have to win Iowa, North Carolina, beat Susan Collins in Maine, and pick up some other seat somewhere in a fluke. As I said a few months ago, it seemed impossible. Now it's not impossible, only difficult.
All right, with that, we will wrap up Lichtman Live for this evening. If you haven't liked the stream yet, give it a quick like at the end here. The good news is the Lichtman Live post show is coming up right after this. You can all yell at me about whatever you were yelling at me earlier.
I don't even remember what I yelled at you about. I think too much whataboutism.
I wasn't doing whataboutism. Their poll, let's end the poll, still at 96% say that, yes, the letter is really from Trump. 4% say no. Dad, what are your final words to the people tonight?
My final words is, don't despair. I see a lot of despairing in some of the questions. Trump is on his heels in many ways. And on the one hand, that's a good thing, but on the other hand, that's a very, very dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Because if he gets desperate, he's going to do desperate things. So we all need to be on our guard. Remember, vigilance is the only way to preserve liberty.
Okay. See you all in the post show. Say good night, Dad.
Conservative at the core, it's out.